Hey folks, it's the Celt here, back again. This time I'm going to make some sci-fi furniture. Basically what I brought this round is I brought some tiles from TT Combat. They're generic dungeon tiles, which I could just do some quick dungeon roleplay or mini games for fantasy and that. But I'd sprayed them just a plain grey, just a brown undercoat, and sprayed them grey, left them really basic, didn't do anything to them. Reason for this, because in the future I thought I could always use them for sci-fi tiles and pretend it's the innards of a ship. Now I've got a little roleplay game coming up, and I decided I wanted some actual sci-fi furniture. So I went to my trust and true cereal box and see what I can make out. And in this I just make a couple of bunk beds and some lockers as well. So if you want to see what I did, let's have a look. So I started out on the beds and started marking out what I needed. So each of the squares are an inch by 2 inch square, and I wanted to cover 2, so I wanted it to be 1 inch by 2 inch. So effectively this is each section of the long section is 50mm wide and 25mm on the smaller section. The whole thing is 50mm tall, and to make out the actual railings themselves, the structure of the bed, it's I think I used 5mm as the kind of railings to cut out, and this gave me a nice solid structure. And all the shaded areas you can see in this is the bits that I cut out. So just carefully using a sharp knife, I cut everything out. I also scored all the fold lines. So as you can see there, it's got a bit of bend in it at the moment because I've scored them all. And this just makes a nice sharp edge and easier to bend as well, especially because these bits are only like 5mm wide. It's quite hard to bend them around. So it's just a side by side of the bit to cut out and the bit I have cut out, just so you got a rough idea of what's going on there. So it's a 5mm structure, the actual bracings for the bunk bed itself. I've also left a tab on the right hand side there. That's just a 5mm tab which will connect it all when I form it as a square. And the rest is all just decoration. You just pick the size that you want for your beds. As I say, this is 25 by 50 and 50mm high. So and the structure itself is 5mm slats. Next up, I just glue them up and let them set off as I start making the actual structure of the bed itself. So the actual bed itself is just a simple 50mm by 25mm square with 5mm tabs all the way around, cut on an angle. As you can see there, let's see the one I cut. Again, I've scored it all so it bends easier, and then you just slot them into the appropriate space, and say the tabs are 5mm, same as the actual structure itself on the bunk bed. So it's all hidden anyway, and you just place them in, glue them in, and that's that for now. So next up, I actually move away from the good old cereal box here, and I go for some kitchen towel or paper towel. Basically, I cut these into strips, and then I rolled them up and folded them back on themselves to form a pillow, and then just drowned it in a mixture of PVA and water, which will just make it go nice and hard. This is really just old school stuff, but it gives a nice texture and a look to the actual pillow and material itself, and makes it look a bit more like material than the card would. Okay, so next up, I just folded up some of the paper towel in half and soaked it in PVA, and then just placed it on there to try and look like a blanket over the top. And I even folded the top back a bit, just to give it a bit more, just give it more of a 3D effect, so it looks less like a cardboard box and a bit more like a quilt. So that is it. I just painted them up next. I just put a black primer over them, painted up all the metallic areas, all the frame itself in a metal, did some rusting. Painted the quilt blankets green and the linen with a white, just shaded up. Used dry brushing mostly just to bring up the detail in all the folds and all the bits of paper, which is excellent. And when I'm finished, most importantly, just cover it in a nice coat of PVA. That'll just help protect it and stop any damp or warping on the card itself. All in all, it's actually surprisingly solid for what it is, and doesn't look that bad. So next up, I did some lockers. Again, this is just using basic squares with tabs on. I've left the bottom open to form just a simple box with a lid. This will be 50mm wide and 15mm thick, because I didn't want them as chunky as they need to be. They look a bit too heavy otherwise. So I've got 2 here ready to cut out and give a go. So here's the basic shapes just before I fold them up. Again, I scored all the lines to make sure they fold nicely and give a good strong corner. I've left a tab again on one of the edges to fold right round to form the box, and on the lid I've got a tab on each side just to fold in and all glue together to form the box. As I say, there's no bottom to it because I think it'll freestand as it is, and they're not meant to be knocked over anyway. If you want to make them so they can get knocked over, you probably want to put a bottom in them just to cover it in and just paint it silver like the rest of it. So this is the box just formed up, so they're 50mm wide, 15mm deep, and the height of them, I just did them 35mm. Now onto the front, I just made some basic cuts of square. The front is the full width 50, but it's slightly shorter to give like look like it's got a kickboard or a plinth along the bottom. I think instead of 35, I think I did that one. If it's 35 tall, probably 25, something like that. Might not be that, actually might be just a 5mm kickboard at the bottom. And then I made again 4 smaller squares to sit in that are just small enough to give a small gap around to look like doors once it's all stuck together. So yeah, stick those faces on to give a look, and that is it. I literally don't do anything else to it. Next it's just the painting, and just to make them look more like a locker. So again, I just painted these all silver, put a bit of a black wash around the edges just to strengthen the edging of the doors, just to make them stand out a bit more. I put some rust on them. I just numbered them just to give them, just a bit more detail to them. And of course, I just painted some black lines in it, little slats just to look like vents. I also painted the inside because obviously the bottom of it is open, so I painted all the inside black, gave that a couple of coats, and then when I finished it I gave the whole thing a coat of PVA just to keep it solid and to protect it as well, and that includes the inside as well, so there's no exposed edges, everything is sealed in with the PVA. So yeah, as they're all painted, that's roughly how they look. The models there are from Cobblestone Castings. They're their Future Wars miniatures. That'll be probably taking part in the spaceship themselves, but they don't look too bad. They are nice and simple, and you can also use this process later on. I also add in some extras to create some control panels and things like that, just as objectives, and just line of sight blockers on the terrain tiles themselves. So I hope that was good and helpful to you. As I say, things can be so simple when it comes to wargaming, and Cereal Box goes a long way. Especially if you're frugal and tight like I am. I don't want to spend out on a lot of stuff. But these are very quick to do. I was doing them in a couple of evenings, so it was quite a nice little change of pace, breaking up of the painting. I'll just leave you some photos of just a little area set up, and you can see how it looks. So till the next time, guys, take care of yourselves, and farewell.